Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish Podcast. On today's episode, we've got Rebuilt Coach Dan Sipe. Now, Dan is a success in the business world, but I can't wait for you to get to hear some of his faith story, some of his story from helping different parishes in finance, and then I want you to hear how he is serving parishes today. And wow, is he a storyteller. So you're going to want to tune in and hear some of his incredibly authentic stories. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hey there, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Melissa.
This is exciting. It's not often that on this podcast, I get to interview other people that also get to do a podcast. So this is going to be fun.
I'm sure you're going to be better at it than I am. So
I don't know about that. So let me ask you this. So this is what's fun is that you are part of Rebuilt. You're a parishioner at Nativity, but you've got a really fun background in what you and your family do and how you serve. So can you just share a little bit about yourself, your family, your faith, and what brought you to Nativity?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, it came about at my former parish, and actually my former 3 parishes. I was the fundraiser guy.
Okay.
And so my joke was I could identify every member of the parish by the back of their head. Because they saw me in the grocery store, they would make an immediate U-turn and head the other way.
How many other people listening feel that way, Dan? I'm sure so many people here have felt that.
So I was meeting with the pastor because we were about to kick off a fundraiser for a new worship space. And he was sharing his anxiety because we had just paid off the main church. And then we were in the final stages of paying off the religious ed building that we had built. And he was worried about taking on the debt. And, you know, the one thing that I had learned through these types of things is if God wants it, it's going to happen. If God doesn't want it, doesn't matter what you do. So I shared that with him. And he goes, well, you know, there's another Father Michael in the Archdiocese, Father Michael White, and he built a $15 million church and paid it off in 2 years. And I said, can you get me an introduction?
Wow.
I said, I need to go over there because that's not somebody wrote a better speech that day.
Right.
Okay. There's something going on there. So, he said, well, they have a book and I have a copy of it. And as he, Father Michael Jendrick, who is actually part of Rebuilt now with,
I know Father Mike. He's great.
And high energy.
Yes.
Okay. So he went buzzing down to get the book. And by the time he had gotten down and gotten back, I'd already purchased it on my phone. And I said, okay, I'm going to read this. And I read it. And to say that it captured my imagination was an understatement. And so, my wife and my daughter and I, came over for Mass one day. And obviously it was a different experience than we had been used to in most churches. And then I got to talk to some of the people afterwards. So I bought a ton of copies of Rebuilt and literally handed them to everybody that wouldn't run away from me at my church. Didn't really get the traction going there. So that was fine. Just sort of accepted that. Well, then COVID hit and everything shut down in Maryland in the space of a week. Mm-hmm. So our church at the time did not have an online presence for Mass. Mm-hmm. And we were going to watch The Passionists, which we were used to out of New York. Once upon a time, it was called The Mass for Shut-ins, which is a terrible name. And we were going to watch that. And I went, I remember the church we visited in Nativity. I think they've had an online presence for a long time. Let's check. And to say that there was a presence was an understatement. It was well done, well produced. So it's like we watched it and we liked it. And it wasn't a surprise to us because we'd attended in person. We knew it was going to be Christian contemporary music and that type of thing. Well, then it went a while before our other church got online. And so we had about a month of attending and really liked it. So we kept attending. Well, as we all survived COVID and sort of marched through that, we were seeing a weird inflection point. because Nativity was clearly calling to us and feeding our souls. And yet, I was a lector. I was the fundraiser guy. Mary was a cantor at our old parish. So we were immersed. And plus, Father Michael Jendrick had been a friend of Mary's family for years.
Oh, wow.
So, and I had a very good relationship with him, still do. And so it's like, what are we going to do here? So what we had settled on is we were going to do both. That we were going to attend here. And I want to stress something because this will come up in a second. I am 4 minutes and 1.9 miles from my former parish. 4 minutes and 1.9 miles.
Does it get much
I am
closer
52
than
minutes
that?
away. I am 52 minutes away from Nativity.
Whoa.
So somebody had told me as I close in on my 70th year that I'd be driving 52 minutes on a Sunday morning to attend. I would have told them they were nuts.
Wow.
So we decided we would do both, that we would attend here and then we'd watch. And also as a result of that, we said, hey, we're watching, we should support. So we started supporting Nativity. And then an amazing thing happened. Father Michael was transferred out of the blue. And we took that as a sign.
Yeah.
And so we still are connected to St. Ignatius. We still support St. Ignatius in addition to being a part of the congregation at Nativity, because there's when you are blessed to be able to tithe and support your place of worship, walking away can leave a dent. So that's the one thing I'll say to people. If by watching this through the grace of God, you go, hey, I think I'll try this tithing thing. When you go to retire and move to your old parish, go to your next trip, talk to your current parish because they will really miss you.
Right.
And there's an old joke that was always told to begin fundraisers. And it was, two men are on a plane goes down, they get to a desert island, and the first man says, we gotta get some shelter, we gotta do this is terrible circumstance. The other gentleman says, don't worry, I make $100 million a year. And he goes, okay, great. So then there's another thing comes up and he goes, no, we got to fix this. He goes, that's fine, but don't worry, I make $100 million a year. So this happens the third time and he goes, what are you talking about? We're on a desert island. Your money means nothing here. $100 million a year means nothing. What's wrong with you? He goes, oh, I forgot to tell you. I make $100 million a year and I tithe. My pastor's going to find us.
He's not going to let you go down.
So hopefully that's a long-winded answer. That's how we ended up in Nativity, and thrilled to be here and thrilled to be a part of Rebuilt. And that 52 minutes is important.
That is
because I don't have to drive 52 minutes.
Right.
I get to drive 52 minutes.
I love that.
And there are people that don't have a Nativity experience within 52 minutes or within an hour or things like that. And that's when I first started talking to folks about Rebuilt, when they were asking me, what brought me, is like, I want to help Rebuilt because I want every willing and interested Catholic to have the opportunity to have a dynamic, soul-soaring, faith-filling congregation in their life.
That is incredible. Dan, I had no idea that was your background, getting to Nativity. And I feel like that makes it even more special that you read Rebuilt, you bought copies for everybody who wouldn't run away from you so that you could give them.
I've still have a bunch left if you need one.
But I do think, we're going to talk about your business life here in a second, but I think this is exciting because you get to take that passion and then your experience in working in other parishes and working with other parishes and helping these parishes that you coach. I think that's just such a great, well-rounded approach that you specifically as a coach get to bring into the parishes that you're working with.
Thank you.
Of course. Now, talk to us a little bit about your business. So the first time you and I talked about this, I just remember sitting there going, Whoa, this is incredible. So you've built this beautiful business helping federal employees and helping them understand their benefits, investments, and, their future plans. So walk us through a little bit of how that began. I know you've got a beautiful inspirational story around that.
Yeah. As I'm fond of saying, number one, it's all by God's grace. Number two, it found me because sadly, my father-in-law died suddenly. He was a retired career Fed. I was new in my profession and new in the family at the same time. So as the person with quote unquote experience in those areas, it fell to me to help my mother-in-law settle his affairs. What I learned from that is that he spent his day doing his job and not reading about his benefits like so many people do in their careers. But there was a second point to it. He had some misconceptions. And what he told my mother-in-law to expect and what she got were two different numbers, and I couldn't fix it. So to shorten this up a little bit, there was about a 6-week process of trying to sort through things, understand things. But the biggest takeaway I remember saying this to Mary, is I said, who was looking out for him? Because if you give your whole life to public service, I don't think it's unreasonable that there's somebody somewhere in that mix that takes a level of responsibility to make sure that it is easy to learn about and understand your benefits. Right. And that led me to, when this is over and I have mom sorted out as best I can, I think I want to go to work for a place that works with feds. And I couldn't find one at the time. And without getting into the geek weeds, that makes sense because the two retirement plans were changing at the time. And under the old one, you didn't really need to do as much planning. So if you listen to the young folks in my firm, sometimes they'll tell the story like I was on a mountaintop and had a vision. But no, I was just a guy. I was a guy trying to help his family. And so what ended up was I'm here in the DC area. I knew I was going to meet a lot of feds. I had learned a lot from this experience. I already had feds as clients. So I said, look, you're already working with me. I'm just going to explain to you what I learned. And so I started explaining the benefits to people, and they started introducing them to people that wanted to learn about the benefits. And God kind of took the rest and, add to that some amazing people, not the least of which is my business partner, Tom, and the remainder of the Lee Sipe Associates and Serving Those Who Serve crew that helped make a dream and me possible. To get us to where we are today. And there's 25 of us. And, last year we had 1.1 million visitors to our website because it was a tough year for feds, and it continues to be a tough time for feds. And, I feel very blessed. It's the analogy that I use is it's like I decided I want to be a doctor, and then I decided I want to specialize in malaria. And then I opened a malaria hospital. Mm-hmm. And then there was a massive malaria outbreak, which was good for my hospital, but bad for the people.
Right.
And so I'm grateful to God for putting me on this path. We were able to be who we were. I wish we could have been twice as big because we could help more people. Because again, it's a tough time for our feds out there.
What are the people in your parish really looking for? That question is at the heart of Jesus, the Rich Young Man, and the Meaning of Life, the newest book from Father Michael White and Tom Corcoran. In the gospel, the rich young man comes to Jesus searching for more. He has success, status, and comfort, but he still knows that something is missing. His question is not so different from the questions people in our pews are asking today. What gives life meaning? What am I holding on to? And what would it look like to truly follow Jesus? This book invites parishioners to name what they are seeking, recognize what may be keeping them from deeper discipleship, and respond more personally to Jesus' invitation. Come, follow me. For parishes, it can become more than a book. It can become a shared pathway through Lent, helping your whole community pray, reflect, and grow around the same message. Alongside the book, Rebuilt Parish will offer a complete Lenten message series and small group resources so pastors and parish teams can lead their people through it together. You can read the first chapter for free today. Visit rebuiltparish.com/book to download Chapter 1 of Jesus, the Rich Young Man, and the Meaning of Life by Father Michael White and Tom Corcoran. Right. It definitely is. Well, Dan, I feel like that's just a testament to your faith too, though, that showing that you saw this need and didn't see like, how can I capitalize on it? It was, how can I serve people? How can I help?
Well, okay.
people
I don't
understand
want to hold myself out as something more than I am, folks. Believe me, I'm a baby boomer kid. I came up through the 70s when there was young life in the schools. I was not a Jesus freak. I describe myself as a guy. I'm just a regular guy. So I want to be careful that I'm not portrayed as something I'm not. Yes, I felt a profound calling to do that, but it's like, and I don't think I'll go broke.
Definitely not. Definitely
So,
not.
There seemed to be some potential there too. So.
You know, Dan, I think now is a great time to ask you this question. So you shared in the beginning how you were the fundraising guy in your parish.
Yes.
You shared how you had been tithing even before you got to Nativity. So
Well, my partner made me.
Your partner made you tithe?
Yes,
Okay.
he made me do it. Yes, he absolutely did. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was very awkward, but yes, I have to give him credit for that.
So,
We were less than a year into our working relationship, and we were in the car driving an appointment. He was driving. Never get into a car with an evangelical Christian to let them drive because you can't get out. And so he said, Dan, I want to talk to you about some of this. Yeah, sure. What's up? He goes, I'm an evangelical Christian. I said, you've mentioned that multiple times. And he goes, and I tithe. And if we're going to work together, you need to tithe too.
wow. Wow.
Now, I'm not going to lay this all at the feet of Catholics because I think it's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But in my life experience, being a Catholic from the cradle, telling Catholics what they have to do with their money
Right.
is not a winning message.
Right.
So yeah, I credit him for having the faith and courage in his convictions. And I don't want to mislead anybody here. It wasn't like I went, oh, and the next week I tithe. It was like, well, number one, this guy's nuts. Can I afford to have him as a partner? And two, what did he do next week? Not tithe, but we started thinking about can we sneak it up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
And then I vividly remember when we finally wrote a check that was 10%, and I remember what didn't happen. I didn't lose my house. I didn't lose my car. Okay, I didn't miss a meal. So God takes care of that side of it. And again, please, if anybody happens to watch this, I'm just a regular guy.
I feel like
And
that's so important for people to hear, though, Dan. They need to hear that sometimes you're challenged to give, right? Like, so when we talk about challenging people to give, we ask them to do those things, like just start by planning or progressing, right? Then going up a little bit. And it sounds like you did some progressing before you got to where you wanted to be.
Yep.
And that's fair. That's what we ask that of people.
And it was almost like fingers in the ears. Let's drop that check in and see if something explodes. And no, it didn't. It's like, okay, we're still here. All right, let's try it next week. Maybe this God won't drop me thing is real, because, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, I had an important disconnect that needed to be fixed. And that was, I wasn't going to bother God with business things.
Oh, that's
God was busy.
Yeah.
God, well, remember, baby boomer, I grew up with the famine in China. Okay, starving children in China. Mm-hmm. So God's got to work on that.
Right.
And God's got, famines and fires and things like that. And then there's the whole devil thing, mm-hmm. And so God's entirely too busy for me to bother him with business stuff. And I had to fix that disconnect.
So talk to us a little bit about what tithing then did for your faith and how that helped you change that perspective.
Well, there's kind of a fast forward within it, because it was tested mightily with 2008. and the crash.
Okay.
So, financial services was the epicenter. And it would not be an overstatement to say that was one of the lowest points of my life. Just the fear, the gut-wrenching fear of it all, because there was nothing like it that had happened before, and you didn't know where the bottom was. And I remember I was in church one day and coming out, and I guess Mary had been singing that way. Sometime we'd take two cars, but I had my own car. And I met a friend of my brother's there, and we were talking. It's how you holding up? And I said, "Oh, it's tough. If I could just see some green," meaning that the market could be positive, because we had so many consecutive weeks of down, 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 down. And I guess this was somewhere around, February, March. And at my parish at the time, they literally had an old rugged cross kind of stuck up in the woods that somebody had put up there. And I remember I was driving out, and I just whipped into a parking space, and I went up there and I knelt down and I just hung on to that cross and I cried. And it was starting to rain, and I don't remember how long I was there. I just remember holding on and saying, I can't. And I can't say this was the same weekend. It was separated by no more than 1 week. I had adopted the habit of listening to Pastor Lon Solomon from McLean Bible Church. I would listen to his sermons when I'd get home. And in this particular one, I can't remember what came before. I can't remember what came after. I don't know how long I sat there. But he said, there is a point where giving becomes worship. And I know that I eventually got up, walked out of my office, walked into the kitchen where Mary was. She had her back to me. She turned around and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, and this isn't the belly of the beast. I said, "I'm not going to put my faith in money. I'm not going to put my faith in markets. I'm not going to put my faith in stimulus or bailouts or anything. If God wants me to be broke, I'm going to be the best broke I can be. If God wants me to be wealthy, I'm going to be the best wealthy I can be, whatever, and anything in between, but no more." Okay. I'm going to ask God, trust God. That's it. I'm not good enough at this. Okay. I need that. And so that was a very powerful inflection point for me.
Wow. That sounds like total surrender right there, Dan.
And it's funny because there probably should have been more noble ways of arriving there, that it had to come through money.
Wow.
But it came, and I'm grateful for it. And, yeah.
I feel like that it takes a lot of humility to say that, but I think also, God gives us different gifts and different talents too. And keep in mind that working with money is one of your talents. So I feel like that does make sense. And when I think about now how you've
Although I don't know if people watch this, they're going to, they might reconsider. It's like, I don't know, this guy's kind of out there.
No, I feel like you're just being authentic. But, when I think about it, you turned around then, and you then have been helping parishes, especially when it comes with things with finances. You said you were the fundraising guy. That makes sense. That's one of your gifts. And so it does make sense that that's where God met you and taught you that. And I
did
love
find
this
the answer.
story.
I did find the answer at Nativity. And make no mistake about it, this seed had been planted once before. And it was 2 parishes earlier, and it was a gentleman named Barry Lyons, and he was the fundraiser guy before me at that parish. But then he retired and moved away. And he stepped up to the ambo, and he goes, "Here he comes. Here he comes again. He's coming after my money." And I went, "Well, this is different.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I like funny." And then he stopped, and he stepped around from behind the ambo, and he just stepped down onto the floor and spoke to the congregation.
Wow.
And he shared that he had come to the conclusion that everything in his life came from God, and that included money. So it wasn't his money, it was God's money. So that's where that seed had first been planted. And I believe that Nativity, through its journey and through what it offers through Rebuilt, lays the kernels for people to learn and embrace and accept that.
Absolutely.
Because it flips the script. And this is, Despicable Money Man here goes to, I get to keep 90.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's all coming from him,
Right.
and I get to keep 90. Okay. If you think of historical kings, okay, the peasants didn't get 90,
Right.
So, it's reaching that point of understanding it, and it's not easy. And again, if but I think it's accessible, because I want to stress again, I'm just a guy, you know.
And Dan, how many other guys like you are in the pews at all of these other parishes who they haven't heard that, right?
Mhm.
For some people, maybe they haven't been coached yet. And, when Ed teaches the finance and stewardship course,
Sure.
he does share that. He shares
Yep.
that we have to teach people how to give as an act of worship in
Mhm.
their place of worship. Not all of these parishes have connected those dots for their people yet. And that's part of our role, is to help teach people that giving is an act of worship. And what you said, I get to keep 90. I think about in The Purpose Driven Life, how Rick Warren talks about how God can do so much more with that 10% than I can do with that, God can do more with 90% than what I can do with 100%. And Dan, I think you've shared something that the people who are listening, they can take courage and know, like, oh, if Dan's heart can be moved by this, the guys in my pews can be moved by this too. I just have to reach them. And
Sure.
I feel like it's just such a great example.
But reach them, accept the fact that it could be reaching by inches.
That's a
Okay.
great point.
Water wears the rock.
Yes.
Okay. Water wears the rock.
Now, you've had the opportunity to work with different parishes, both before Rebuilt and with Rebuilt. So what advice would you give to pastors who are trying to reach some successful business leaders like you?
Oh, we need Jesus. And that was another kind of seismic shift for me with understanding Rebuilt Nativity, was what is it? What is the definition of who could be lost?
Oh.
Because with the avatar of Timonium, Tim's a great guy. Tim's got a great career. Tim's got a great family. Okay, Tim's pillar of the community. Just doesn't have Jesus. So, the one thing that I would say to any pastor is, the successful, business people in your parish, don't be surprised if they're just people, if they're just guys, if they're just gals. And don't be surprised, and I'm not casting this on anybody else, I'm speaking for myself. Don't be surprised if they have imposter syndrome, because my business coach, that shows you where my headspace is, explained to me that if you're achieving, you're always having a doubt as to whether you can do it. And so that makes sense. So there's holes to be filled there. And by and large, we're getting there, but we don't have a theology of money. I remember when I read Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And it was Andrew Carnegie, wanting there to be an economic philosophy out there. Well, I think there's room and space and need for economic theology, because I don't think I was an alien species saying, God's got to take care of the starving kids.
Right.
The business, I can't bother him with that, because that's worldly. And it's like I'm asking God to help me, get wealth or achievement or something like that. And that's an important cycle to break, because It is, even though when the crash hit, I was already in the habit of tithing. I hadn't turned it all over yet.
So you were in the habit of tithing, but you hadn't turned it all over. Tell us what's that all? Like turning your business over to God?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's what got me through, no joke. The movies from Sherwood Baptist Church. Okay.
Interesting.
Facing the Giants, Flywheel, watched them over and over again. And in Flywheel, there is a place of conversion for a gentleman who has a used car lot, and he turns the lot over to God. And Tom and I talked about it because I cannot understate the importance of my partner in this. And we determined that the practice was God's. And so at the end of each day, during the darkest times, I would flick the lights off and on at the end of the day. It says, I guess God wants us to come back. The lights are still on.
There you go.
Okay, everybody, we'll be back again tomorrow.
We're still in business, guys. Dan, I think that's so important, though, for people to hear is that when we do turn things over to God, though, what more he can do. I mean, you're still in business. You're successful.
Yep.
You're helping. I'm guessing thousands of people every year. Your business is helping.
I mentioned 1 million came to the website, and that means there was stuff to read. So that's the type of thing that really makes me giddy. You know, can we keep producing the things that people need that they can come in the middle of the night and take for free,
right?
And then walk away saying, "You need to go here because this guy's nuts. Yeah. He's giving all this stuff away for free."
Away.
But again, I will never cast myself as something I'm not. I also understand that the psychology of things. There's a certain segment of that 1 million people that go, "Hey, can you help me with this? You seem like a good guy." And so please don't think me of something I'm not. You know, I do try and keep a business mindset as well.
What would happen if Lent became more than something your parishioners attended? What if it became a season of real transformation? This September, Rebuilt Parish is launching Small Groups, Big Renewal, a 2-part workshop series designed to help parish leaders see how small groups, practical tools, and message series can work together to help people grow as disciples of Jesus. We'll share insights from the Church of the Nativity and from parishes that have used small groups to help people build relationships, go deeper in their faith, and take real next steps beyond Sunday Mass. In week 1, Father Michael White and Tom Corcoran will cast the vision for what can happen when an entire parish moves through a liturgical season together. In week 2, we'll have our subject matter expert Dave Fleury and a partner parish leader to talk practically about how small groups take root, what makes them successful, and how the right tools can help parish leaders launch with confidence. Join us this September for Small Groups Big Renewal. Learn more and register for free at rebuiltparish.com/workshops.
Well, we know that the free people coming is not keeping the lights on. It's the people who do choose to come to you because they know, like, and trust you from the amazing tools that you're giving them for free.
That is what we try and do.
Now, Dan, as we start to wrap up here, you know, I think about, you know, some of these pastors might feel intimidated. And you did share, like, just know that, you know, guys who are successful in business or women who are successful in business, you know, are just normal. How would you encourage them to invite them into deeper conversation about giving, as far as not just giving as an act of worship, but maybe giving to something bigger, like a building campaign?
Start by getting to know them.
Ah, so good. Yes.
You know, because I remember it was part of some coaching tapes, that shows my age, that I was listening to. And it talked about when you meet a successful business person, ask them how they got started and ask them to tell you their story. And then 45 minutes later, you'll be able to ask your next question. And he said, because nobody's asking them. Nobody is asking them that. He said, think about it. Their wife and their kids live it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're not going to know. So honey, what inspired you to do this? Talk to them and ask them why they got started. Ask them, to tell you their story, and they'll do it. Don't do it with an ulterior motive. Meet them where they are, get to know them. Then I would recommend that you listen for what I like to call Christian gang signs.
I've never heard of this before. Tell us about these.
Well, no, somebody cannot be terribly, terribly religious and can occasionally drop in the word blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you just flashed the sign.
Mm-hmm.
You did, because that got there for a reason. That word choice got there for a reason. Okay, long before I ever read the Bible, I understood that there was a God, and even if I wasn't bothering him with my business, that I was probably being blessed. So I probably should say that every now and again. Very different relationship with God, but listen for those types of things. And that's not to say the person who feels they're a complete self-success is not a pathway. But if you engage and you listen and get to know your people and go with no agenda, because again, nobody's doing that.
Right.
My son coaches, and he had an interaction with a young man who went on to become a first round draft choice with the NFL.
Wow.
And they had a very tense interaction at a gym where they both attended, where the young man who was still in high school was behaving in a way that could really hurt somebody. And Colin ended up giving him a talking to, and they reconnected years later. And the young man who's now in the NFL said, "You were the first guy who did that, who wasn't going to get something."
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
And I went home and it's like, this guy's not going to get a piece of my contract. He was just yelling at me because I was being an idiot. and he was right. If that went wrong, that could have changed the trajectory of my life. So Colin went in with no agenda.
Right.
Except for, buddy, you can't do that. What's wrong with you? And young men are used to hearing that from their fathers.
Yes.
Okay. What were you thinking? I think is issued to every father when their sons are born. Okay. But then when it's somebody who just comes forth with best interests, and so that'd be a recommendation. Get to know your people out there.
That's so good, Dan, because I feel like going in there with no agenda, just listening, and then listening for the Christian gang signs, right? Like, what are those words that are going to stand out that show, and just be there. I think that's great advice that any of our pastors or parish leaders that are listening can put into practice today in their own parishes.
It was a seismic change in my life when a pastor became a friend. Because I went to Catholic school. Okay. So if you ever were bad enough that you got past the principal to the pastor, no, not going to be a good day for you.
Right.
So there was a definite level of awe and teeny bit of fear and that type of thing. And so it was a huge change in that. And I think that change is out there for everybody. And I think I believe to my core, there's an element of the divine discontent that is entrepreneurship that is placed by God.
Amen. Yes.
And because otherwise it's madness. Why would you ever put yourself through it?
Right.
And yes, you can always point, oh, it turned out pretty good for you. But there's an awful lot that didn't hit that level. It didn't work out that way. And yet they were just as committed and went through the same work and fears and anxieties. And, I think Paul had the right idea when he said, hey, I can repair sails. Okay. I'm going to work in a town that has seafaring people, and I'm going to repair sails, and I'm going to talk to them. And then I'm going to talk about Jesus while I talk about that. And so, I can say, even from my own experience, that accept the fact that the first invitation, they're going to go home and talk to their spouse and say, yeah, I'm going to lunch with Father so-and-so. He's pretty sure that's going to hit me in the wallet, because that's the reputation of it. And when it turns out not to be that, that's the first step in breaking that down and finding pathways to bring that better message, that economic theology, to people, because it's important and it's a better way to live. Now, I always said, boy, am I going to get tested on now? So if there's a crash, it's my fault. And I apologize to everybody that I made that happen, because I've pointed to the crash of 2008 as being so important in my faith journey, and then I apologize to the entire humanity that God had to crash the economy to get my attention.
Well, I have a feeling, Dan, you probably weren't the only person learning a lesson there. So just know there were others also learning that faith lesson too. But
Yeah.
Dan, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing so authentically. Thank you for sharing your stories. I mean, my goodness, that I just can't wait for our listeners to get the opportunity to hear this from you. And I know people are going to be asking, hey, how do I get Dan Sipe to be my coach?
Okay, I'm the worst coach that's in. No, I'm just telling you. I am the least qualified, the least capable. Every other coach in Rebuilt is better than me, and that's why they tuck me in away little safe projects. Like I got an Episcopal church instead of a Catholic church, and that type of thing. But you can't go wrong, in my opinion, with anybody within Rebuilt. I've seen the fire, I've seen the passion, I've seen the Holy Spirit in all of it. So if you're a pastor and you're considering it, if nothing else, read the book. Read the book, read the book, read the book. Okay. Dan Sipe, my office is in Rockville, Maryland. If you read that book and it wasn't worth your time, tell me what you paid for it. I will send you a check. Okay. If you didn't learn something, you give me a fair read on this one. Okay, you didn't learn something, I'll send you a check for what you paid for.
I love it.
And that's the horrible money man in me coming out, making an economic deal here. But you won't be the same after you read it, and you're going to get some good ideas. And,
Definitely.
And whether it's engaging through the content, because the only people as crazy as me is Rebuilt, because all that free content out there that you can come in the middle of the night and take it, go tell other pastors about it. Okay. Because they're nuts. They're giving it away. And then if you say, hey, could you help me with this? Yes, we can. And there is a professional development for the coaches. The coaches are on fire with their desire to keep growing and get better. That's why I'm the worst one, because I'm, because of my schedule, I miss coach training. So I'm the bad coach. You don't want me, but if you're looking at a coach, you can't go wrong here.
Oh, well, Dan, thank you. We're grateful to have you as a part of the coaching team. And we're just, again, thankful that you took the time away from your business to pour into our Rebuilt community today. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course. And to all of our listeners, thank you. We'll see you next time.